Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? Yes, my name is Dr. Eve Lambert, and I'm from the Department of Fine Arts, the Division of Speech and Theater, and I would like to welcome you here. Let me begin by saying ni hao, or ni hao ma, which just means how are you? It is so good to see you here, and it is especially good to be here amongst friends from the People's Republic of China. We are so ecstatic to welcome Dr. Ji, who is an honored professor and TV host and author, opera singer, and the list goes on and on. And believe it or not, he was actually my laoban, my boss in China when I lived there for several years. And I would see him pedaling away furiously but calmly with always a polite smile. And I didn't really know who he was, but I knew the legend of Dr. Ji, or many people called him Uncle Beard. And he was a famous storyteller in quite demand. And now he is here in the United States, so I will let him tell you more about his legend in China and what he does. He is just an amazing person who preserves the stories of China through song and through storytelling, myth, and so forth. So we are just honored to have him. He is traveling through the United States for the Lunar New Year, and it is just an honor to have him here at Albany State University. So without further ado, I'm happy to introduce and to give you Dr. Ji, or as we say in Chinese, Ji Lao Shi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lambert. Thank you very much for coming. And I'm honored to have this opportunity to share with you my experiences in China, experimenting with different methods of teaching a foreign language, including teaching Chinese to English-speaking people. Just 2 years ago, I helped Disney create a special program teaching American people to learn to speak Chinese. So today is going to be unforgettable for me. I'm filled up with a lot of duties. I'm going to sing different operas, to sing classical Chinese songs and modern contemporary Chinese songs as well. I'm supposed to share with you my culinary art. And I had a good name in my university. I cook better than I teach, and I sing better than I talk. So you will hear the worst part of me. I'm going to talk mainly, but from 4 to 6, I'm going to sing a lot. And then the best part of my day in Albany State University is in the evening. I'm going to cook for you. And you will have my brand of dumplings and my brand of tea as well. So the title of my speech presentation today for this hour is Culture and Language and How to Learn to Speak Chinese Fast. I will share with you my own definition of culture. There are over 300 definitions of culture. There are as many interpretations of the relationship between culture and language. But I have my own understanding of them. I would like to share them with you. And also, if you're interested, you can go with me looking at the ways I teach Chinese to English-speaking people. Now, first of all, let's watch a cartoon created by me.
Grandpa Bear telling you a story. The name of the story is The Three Little Pigs Want to Live Independently. Long ago, there was a true mama, Mummy Pig. True mama. She had 3 xiaozhu, little pigs. She had 3 xiaozhu. The 3 xiaozhu were quite different in character. The first xiaozhu was very lazy and careless. He never did his job properly and was scared of working hard. The second xiaozhu was not as lazy as the first xiaozhu, but he certainly did not enjoy working hard. When he got tired, he hated doing his job properly. The third xiaozhu was never lazy. He was careful, hardworking, and responsible. One morning, the sun shone brightly in the blue sky. The 3 xiaozhu were having breakfast. The first xiaozhu said, "Living with Mama is nice, except I have little freedom. Except I have little freedom. Mama often asks I to clean the 房子. Mommy often asks me to clean the house. Every time I clean the 房子, every time I clean the house, I get so tired. Oh, how I wish to go out to live independently without Mama supervising without Mommy supervising me." The second xiaozhu said, "I agree with you. Imagine how much more freedom we will enjoy if we go out to build our own 房子, house, and live independently." The third xiaozhu said, "Mama has been taking good care of us for so long, and she's very tired. Now that we are big boys, we should go out to build our own 房子 and live independently." With that, the 3 xiaozhu came to Zhu Mama, and the first xiaozhu said, "Mama, I am a big boy now. I want to. 我要 go out to build a 房子. 我要 live independently." The second xiaozhu said, "Mama, I am a big boy now. 我要 go out to build a 房子. 我要 live independently." The third xiaozhu said, "Mama, I am a big boy now. 我要 go out to build a 房子. 我要 live independently." Zhu Mama was very happy to hear that. She said, "My dears, you are big boys now. It's time you lived on your own. But be careful. There is a big wolf in the wood. He 要 eat you. He wants to eat you. Make sure your 房子 are strong enough." The first xiaozhu said, "Don't worry, Mama. We won't be caught by the big wolf." Zhu Mama said, "Do you know the big wolf has 2 younger brothers? They also 要 eat you." The second xiaozhu said, "Yes, I know the big wolf has 2 younger brothers. I hear they are very silly. I am not afraid of them." The third xiaozhu said, "Don't worry, Mama. We will sure live a peaceful, independent life." 再见, Mama. Zhu Mama said, 再见, to see your mama often, okay? So, the three 小猪 left their farms. They Yao go out to build their own farms and live independently. Okay, boys and girls, this is the end of the story. Do you want to know what happened to the three little pigs later? If you do, just listen to Grandpa Bear's next story. The name is The Three Little Pigs Want to Build Their Own Houses. But before we come to that story, let us read aloud the new words that appear in this story. Okay? Follow me, please. Mama, Mommy, Mother, Mama, Mama, 猪 pig, 猪 猪 小 little 小 小 房子 house 房子 房子 我 I me 我 要 want to want 要 再见 bye bye 再见 再见 Okay, boys and girls, now I have a song for you. You can listen and sing along with the music. We are the happy 小猪，小猪，小猪，我要 live on my own and build my own 房子。妈妈 don't worry, we are all big boys. 我要 live on my own and build my own 房子。Okay, boys and girls, how about the Chinese words we learned today? Can you read?
Right, so that's my story, the first of the 61 stories. And the stories go on and on, include even the tragedy of 9/11 in the United States, because I use the stories to teach all kinds of morals, and the traditional Chinese values and universal values as well. So I put my ideas into the teaching of a foreign language in China. But when I created a program for American people to learn to speak Chinese, I did not use that. I simply used the Disney stories, Toy Story 3. And at the end of my talk, I can share that program with you. But at the moment, shall we look at this one? And you see, the title of my presentation is Culture, Language, and How to Speak Chinese Fast. Now let's look at my own definition of culture. I'm going to cover these areas: my own definition of culture, my own theory of culture, that's 4E theory. How does culture affect language? What are the characteristics of the Chinese language? And my own programs to help English-speaking people to speak Chinese. A number of important and easy to learn phrases in Chinese. Now let's look at the first item of my presentation, my definition of culture. One sentence: human intentional action and its behavior and its results. So as long as an action that is intentional, produced by humans, it is culture. Now, the result of that action, of many actions, of course, are culture as well. So the meanings or the interpretation of my definition of culture has 3 layers. First, it has to be human beings rather than other species of animal, no matter how organized they are as social animals like ants, bees, elephants, lions. Second layer of the second layer of my definition is intentional rather than unintentional. No matter how artistic or dramatic an unintentional action or its result may be, we don't call it culture. The third layer is not only action itself, but also its results. Whether they are short-lived or long-lasting, physical or mental. So here we have example like churches, schools, Confucianism, praying, all kind of philosophies, or Chinese or Japanese AV, whatever. As long as it's produced as an intentional, out of an intention, an intentional action, as long as it is a result of an intentional action produced by humans, they belong to culture. That's my definition of culture. And then I have my own theory of culture. Now here, let me talk about what is not culture before I move on to my theory. Human intentional action and its results. Human beings rather than other species. Yeah, I talked about that already. And now, human beings rather than other species of animals. Now, elaborate attacks by ants. They are not studied as a cultural phenomenon. Dances by bees, social order by elephants, lions. You can study animal or animal culture or animal behavior, but they don't belong to the sphere of culture study. Intentional rather than unintentional. For instance, illness is not culture, but medicine is. The sleepwalking, dream themselves are not culture, but the study of them, yes. Accidental discoveries, later discovered. Now, accidental discoveries, if they don't, they are they are unintentional discoveries. They don't belong to culture. But if they are studied with a purpose, then they belong to culture. Third, not only action itself, but also its results. So I explained that already. And then, after I give myself, I'm happy with the definition of culture, and I'm thinking about a theory about culture. Just 4 letters came up, 4E. So I call it 4E theory of culture. The first E stands for ecology, the second economy, and the third ethics, and the fourth is equilibrium. Now, talking about ecology, we have fertile and barren land, we have mountainous areas, coastal areas, wet climate, dry climate, hot weather, cold weather, expansive, small, or tsunami, earthquake. Now, these are all included in the ecology. They are elements that constitute part of culture. And then economy, we have agriculture, economy, hunting, nomadism, commercial, robbing. We have ethics. Ethics are produced to create stability, to create harmony, to create solidarity, to encourage innovation, to encourage progress, efficiency, to create equality. So that's ethics. Ethics are created for different purposes. But I will explain the relationship between among the 4 E's. The last one is equilibrium. Whatever the culture is, it has to be liable. It has to have a certain level of equilibrium. Otherwise, it just breaks down itself and disappears. So we may say that the North Korea culture is bad, but it sustains itself. It has a certain equilibrium due to some mechanism inside itself. But talking about equilibrium, we're talking about whether it is a democracy, it is a dictatorship, it is a monarchical democracy, socialist democracy, a meritocracy or mediocracy, whatever. As long as it continues on and on, as long as it doesn't disappear, it doesn't kill itself, it has a mechanism to maintain its equilibrium. Let's look at the relationship among the 4 E's. In my understanding, ecology determines economy. Talking about economy or ecology, we think of self-sufficient. Now, if a country is expansive with fertile land or rich coastal areas, and then of course you are self-sufficient. And then we think of semi-self-sufficient countries, like ancient Greece, coastal and mountainous, less fertile land. So its commerce was highly developed, and people have to develop their handcraft, and they have to go in the direction of navigation, to sustain themselves. Now, how about a third type of ecology? That make those countries, the life in those countries hard. We call them far from self-sufficient. Like, the Vikings, Somalia, North Korea, and desert, extreme cold, theft, robbery, threat. So roughly we can classify them into 3 types: self-sufficient, semi-self-sufficient, far from self-sufficient. Then what happened to the ethics? In a country that is self-sufficient, ethics tend to be developed to create, right? To increase stability. It's usually relation-focused, relation-centered. For the stability of identity. In countries like that, you pay attention to face saving, to face. The frontry, the front is so important. And for semi-self-sufficient countries, trade was heavily emphasized, and innovation, equality, and efficiency are encouraged. There are all kinds of systems to encourage innovation, equality, and efficiency. And how about those countries that are far from self-sufficient? You have 2 choices. You either surrender as slaves, sell yourself as slaves, or you wage a war, you make revolution. If you look at different cultures across the world, you will find this pattern. Now, I'm mainly interested in the 2 types of culture: self-sufficient and semi-self-sufficient. Now, China is famous for being, a village culture country. It used to be that, of course. Now China is open, and China is highly westernized, quickly increasingly westernized. But it used to be village culture centered. The characteristics of a culture like that is zero mobility. You don't move. You stay in a town, in a village all your life, and you have fixed identity, and the hierarchy is fixed as well. So the chief of the village, your grandpa, always has the authority, and you can never outdo him, no matter how smart and how learned you are. It's relation orientation. So everybody knows everybody else well. So relation is very important. It's important to maintain a good relationship, and you shouldn't challenge anyone in authority. You shouldn't challenge your father, your grandparents, and face awareness. So everybody knows everybody else, and whatever you do, and if you don't lose face, if you lose face, you can't do anything else. You can't go far in the future. So face is important. People will mock at you since there's no mobility. You stay put all your life in that village. Therefore, as a result, lack of efficiency and innovation. So young people are not encouraged to outdo their parents and grandparents. So they are not motivated to innovate. They are not motivated to create efficient method of working or production. So, and also, since they are self-sufficient, they are not crazy about commerce. They are not crazy about trading things with other people. So, underdevelopment of commerce, and it's reflected in language as well. In a culture like that, the language is typically short of good grammar rules. So Chinese is short of grammar rules, and it's difficult. I have some gentlemen asking me about the learning of Chinese. I said Chinese characters are hard to remember. Writing Chinese is so difficult. And the grammar is difficult too, because there are very few Chinese rules. Fortunately, after China was open to the Western world, 100 years ago, especially 200 years ago, when the missionaries went to China, so our language was changed because of that influence. We adopted a lot of Western grammar. So nowadays, if you learn to speak Chinese, you'll find they are manageable. They are not that terrible. For ancient Chinese, grammar is so difficult because it's a dictatorship country, and the king, the emperor, makes the rules. But you see, there are many emperors, so it's difficult to find a fixed set of rules governing the working of the Chinese language. So lack of grammar, because of rule by man rather than rule by law. And rich traditions of poems and novels. And this afternoon, from 4 to 6, I will share a lot of ancient Chinese classical poems in songs, in English as well, because my students, they are addicted to their cell phones, to all kinds of programs. I have to work hard to compete with those companies who produce the games. So I translated classical Chinese poems into English. So I teach my students skills of translation, teach them English and teach them Chinese and teach them singing as well. I not only translate classical Chinese poems into English, I sing them and they follow me. They have a relatively less boring time. It's really difficult for us professors to compete with the game creators. They hurt people. They are destroying a new generation, by creating those highly addictive games. Well, anyway, China has rich traditions of art and literature. And also, another characteristics of Chinese culture is Yin Group Friends and out-group enemies. If you are inside my group, you are friends. And if you are outside the group, you are my enemies. That is really an extremely negative aspect of Chinese culture. And Justin and I are here often getting culture shocks, pleasant surprises actually, because we walk on the street, we walk in a park, we often meet people whom we've never met before. They would greet us in a friendly way. And you will be scared to death if you have someone come up and greet you very friendly in China, because there are so many bad people, bad guys there who cheat you. If they talk to you, smile, make friends with you, and then they gradually drag you into a trap they prepared a long time before. But anyway, I'm talking about both the positive and the negative aspects of culture. For semi-self-sufficient culture, market culture is highly developed. You see, in a semi-self-sufficient country, you either turn to robbery or you turn to cooperation. But robbery is costly. But cooperation can be costly in the beginning, but it will take you long, it will pay in the long run. So they usually choose cooperation rather than robbery. And they choose marketplace rather than battlefield, right? And they choose to create trust rather than to commit frauds. And then they have to be fair. When you do trading, you have to be fair if you want to go long. And despotic, you grab products from people. This is just a one-time case. You will never do that because people will be scared away when they see you next time, and they will be attracted to you if they see you are a fair trader. And then identity is changeable, right? In a culture like that, identity is changeable. As long as you create efficiency, you create profit, and you create innovations, then your identity will be changed. You will get reward. And then people pay attention to the importance of contract, law, diplomacy, and strict grammar, science and technology, content rather than the face, rather than the face value. The content is more important. So Chinese people like to use Harvard as an example. The gate of Harvard is very small, and the gate of any university in China is extremely impressive, grandiose, unbelievable big, because they want to show to people how important our university is by building an extremely grandiose, impressive gate. That's Chinese culture. I don't blame them. But I'm talking about cultural phenomena. Okay, so another important concept that I have I thought that I found interesting is cultural inertia. Culture change was slow, but it's now less slow due to ecological and economic changes. Generally, you still find traces of classical Chinese culture or traditional Chinese culture today when you go to China. But in big cities like Shanghai, Beijing, and Canton, you'll find that changes are taking place very fast. So we used to talk about zero mobility and fixed identity, but now people move, people immigrate or migrate quite fast inside China, and they even immigrate to foreign countries. And then hierarchy, I'm talking about once chair, always chair. In China, it's interesting. If you are the chair of the department, you retired, you resign from the post, and they still call you chair. For instance, I was the chair of the English department, and today they meet me, they will say Chair Ji, and I blushed because I'm westernized. I'm not quite comfortable with that kind of addressing me. I would say call me G, but they would say no, once chair, always chair. They still call me Chair G. And relation oriented, face awareness. Now face awareness is high in China. It's not very low in America. And face is important. Whatever culture you are in, you want to save face. You want to have a good impression of on people. So I was talking about lack of grammar because of the tradition of ruling by man rather than ruling by law, and rich tradition of arts, but poor in sciences. Now, if you are highly developed in art, this is my math is bad probably because I'm good at singing, but I've met very few people who are musicians and good at math at the same time. There are some in history. And concrete thinking rather than abstract. Now let's see how culture affects language. Language is a part of culture because language was created out of intention, right? So it's part of culture, but I'm talking about material culture or ecological culture. Affects social institutions, people's desires, and the modes of thinking. So language is invented to help express people's desires according to specific modes of thinking. I was talking about ruling by man resulting in lack of grammar. And you will see, I will give you some examples of Chinese sentence word order to demonstrate how we think. If we don't have a lot of prepositions, if we don't have form or function words to connect the different elements within a sentence, we get all messed up about the logic and relations between different elements within a sentence. So we have to find a way of organizing a sentence. And in Chinese, of course, we use a lot of concrete verbs, nouns, and adjectives. Now let's look at an example. Word order. So we don't have strict grammar, but we follow natural sequential order. For instance, I got up at 6 this morning and drove to the airport to catch the 7:30 flight to Beijing. Now in English, you could say I flew to Beijing by the 7:30 plane after I got up at 6 and drove to the airport. But in Chinese, you must say, I this morning at 6 got up and drove to the airport to catch the 7:30 plane to Beijing. This is the word order. Now let's look at the logic behind it. The natural sequence. Obviously now I is a theme. So we don't discuss that because I'm always here. So I created the sentence. I create the utterance. So let's look at the natural sequence. Today, obviously, as long as the clock, the hand moves across 12, it's today, from 0 hour, right? Starting from 0 hour. Today comes first, and then you have morning of today, and then 6 o'clock comes later, after midnight. And then I got up, and then I drove to the airport, and I catch the plane, I fly to Beijing. So the natural sequence is today morning at 6 a.m. got up and drove to the airport and catch the flight to fly to Beijing. Actually, catch the 7:30 plane, because you catch the plane first, and then at 7:30 it flies out of the airport. So the word order tells you so much about how Chinese people deal with word order, deal with grammar. Now look at this one. Dr. Ji will make dumplings on our campus at 7 this evening. Or at 7 this evening, Dr. Ji will make dumplings on our campus. But in Chinese, the word order must be Dr. Ji today evening at 7 will on our campus make dumplings. Look at the natural order. Here, of course, the person is here. All right, today. All right, and the evening comes later. And in evening, starting from 6 to 12, then you have the 7 o'clock. And then he will be on our campus, he will be present on our campus, and he will do something, and he will make dumplings. So this is the Chinese word order, and there's no other choice. You have to, when you speak later on, you learn to speak Chinese, you follow the natural sequential order. I first, today second, afternoon later, and then in the auditorium later, and then talk about what? Chinese language and culture. So that's the important characteristic of Chinese language. Now here my method to teach Chinese. You have watched my program to teach English-speaking people to learn to speak Chinese. You probably notice 小猪, that's little pig, and 猪妈妈, that's mommy pig. And you have noticed 我, because the three little pigs, keep telling their mom, mama, 我 am a big boy. So I, and then supervising 我, that's me. So in Chinese we have I and me, they are both pronounced 我. So my way of teaching Chinese is called sandwich method. I sandwich You see the foreign language items in between mother tongue chunks. You know, the context help my students to learn to understand the word and to know how it is used and where it is used. Now, for instance, here is a Little Red Riding Hood story. Can you just read according to your understanding of this spelling or phonetic pronunciation? Like this one, 奶奶 oh 奶奶 how come your 眼睛 are so big? So Little Red Riding Hood, could you read aloud with me? Little Red Riding Hood asked, get set go. Little Red Riding Hood asked, oh 奶奶 how come your 眼睛 are so big? Lang answered, my 眼睛 are very big so that I can see you clearly. Little Red Riding Hood asked, oh 奶奶 how come your 耳朵 耳朵 are so long? Lang answered, my 耳朵 are very long so that I can hear you clearly. Little Red Riding Hood asked, oh 奶奶 how come your 牙齿 are so sharp? Lang answered, my 牙齿 are very sharp so that I can eat you up quickly. So, you know, you understand teeth, ears, eyes, because, you know, see you clearly, you know, or I can hear you clearly, or I can eat you quickly, whatever. So this is why I use the sandwich method. I was actually forced to use the sandwich method. I wanted to use authentic English from the beginning, from day one. But you see, if you use English all the time to Chinese children, they will turn hostile to you, because what are you doing using a language that completely understandable to me? They want communication. They want fun. How to make your foreign language classroom interesting, entertaining, and language focused at the same time. So I use this sandwich method. So I helped Disney because I wrote quite a few papers and published them in English in foreign journals. So they've noticed my articles and they wrote to me asking me for help. So I helped Disney Language Learning to create several programs. And they are very nice. They recognize my credits, you know, Yuhua Ji doctor and chair of the English department. So anyway, I was very proud of doing that for them. And later I'm looking forward to rewriting more of their stories. Now, this program got 2 awards in the USA 2 years ago. It's called Learn and Read English. It's actually, you can download them, you can download it free from iPad or iTunes Shop. Now, how to pronounce Chinese words? Now, we have standard Chinese phonetic alphabet, but they are sometimes unintelligible to English speakers. So I create my own way of teaching my English speaking friends to learn to speak Chinese, like ni. But of course, you don't pronounce d, ni, right? Ni, that means you, right? And then what? You don't pronounce t, what? That's me or I. And then ta, that's he or she or her or him. You know, in Chinese, we only have this ta. Now, orally, we only have ta, ta, to mean he, she, her, or him. So when you speak Chinese, you have to be very careful, you know, whether it is a she, ta, or a he, ta, right? And then the possessive case is de. So anything you put de at the end of the word, you have, you know, like China's 中国的, you know, like 我的, you know, mine, 我的. So 我的, that's mine. 你的, that's yours. 他的, his, hers, its, right? And then plurals, you just put men. For instance, 我们, that means we. And 你们 is not 你们, right? 你们, that's you, plural. And then 他们. Could you follow me from number 1? 你, could you read after me? 你, 我, 他. And then we have 我的. Number 2, 我的, 你的, 他的. And then plural, 我们. And then 你们. And then you have 他们. Yes. Hence, we have 我们的. No, 我们的. 我们的. That's ours, right? 你们的. Yours, plural. And then 他们的. Theirs, right? So it's as simple as that. It's important to have the pronouns first. All right, that's the beginning. That's the first step towards, yes. Okay. And then some simple and useful word groups for you to learn. Let's try 你好. 你好. So the literal translation is you good. That's Chinese way of saying how are you, how are you doing. Can you read after me? 你好. 我很好. I very good. I'm very well, 我很好. And then how about plural? How are you guys? Yeah. 你们好. 你们好. And then of course 很好. 很好. And then how about very good eating? That means delicious. 很好吃. 很好吃. And then very good looking. 很好看. 很好看. Beautiful, right? And I would say to Dr. Lambert, 你的衣服很好看, right? Your dress 很好看, right? 谢谢, right? And then how about 很好玩? 很好玩. 很好玩. That's a lot of fun, right? And 很好听. That's very pleasant to the ear, right? The music is 很好听. 很好听. And then how about 你很好? You are very good. 你很好. 你很好. And how about 你很棒? 你很棒. That means you are super good, super great. 很棒. Now how about 他们很好? They are very good. 他们很好. 他们很好. Okay, now how about 中文? 中文. That's Chinese language. 中文很难. Now Chinese is difficult to learn. It is. 中文很难. 中文很好听. Very pleasant to the ear. How about your Chinese is good? 你的中文很好. 你的中文很好. Now how about your clothes? 你的衣服很好看. So that's what I say to most of you. 你的衣服很好看, right? You are all dressed beautifully. Now how about fun? Lots of fun. A place. Right? We say 北京很好玩. And then how about I'm American? When you say 人, when you say this word, 人, you have to smile. 人. Don't round your lips. 人. Rather than 人, it's not rain. 人. Okay, let's try I am American. 我是美国人. Yeah, try this. 我是美国人. That's very good, very good. So, how about when people say your clothes, 你的衣服很好看, and you say 谢谢. 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 And then if you say thank you so much, you know, 多谢. 多谢. And then when you hear 谢谢, you try to say you're welcome. Now, 不客气. Now, 不客气 means not guest-like. It means you're welcome. 不客气. And then how about how much? 多少钱? Now, in Chinese, it means much little money. It means how much, right? 多少钱? For instance, how much is this? 这个多少钱? 这个多少钱? So you go to a Chinese shop, you just say, 这个多少钱? How much is this, right? And then you say, I like China, I like the USA. 我喜欢美国. I like the USA. 我喜欢美国. I like China. 我喜欢中国. 我喜欢中国菜. 菜. I like Chinese dishes, Chinese food. 我喜欢中国菜. Well, do you still remember the three little pigs? When they say goodbye to their mother, they say bye-bye, right? 再见. 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 So, thank you so much. You know, I asked you to watch a short cartoon, and I explained my definition of culture. I explained a little bit of my 4E theory of culture and how culture affects language and Chinese grammar, how to pronounce Chinese, and how to learn some Chinese phrases. Well, before I close my presentation, 谢谢你们 for listening to me. 谢谢你们. Thank you very much.
And questions and answers?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for coming, and we want to open the floor up to questions and answers. We have a microphone here, so you can ask anything about China. I know you probably have lots of questions about China. We only have a few minutes left, or anything about language. So now's your opportunity. We also have a young person here, so if you're curious about Chinese culture and going to school in China as a student, take this opportunity, and in the few minutes that we have left, don't be shy and ask a question. We have a question on the floor.
Well, you know, the meaning of any festival in any culture is that people want to take a break. If you use my 4E theory to look at any festival in any culture, it's always for people to take a break. Because generally in the winter, it's just too cold to work in the field. So they would gather in a warm place, and then they have storytelling sessions, and they have performing arts, to sing to each other, and they have dumplings. You know, today I'm going to make dumplings. And the meaning of dumpling, the word are called 饺子. 饺子 means exchange the time. That means to say goodbye to the old year and to welcome the new year. And that's the phonetic explanation of 饺子. But you see, the material interpretation of dumplings is that you have everything in it. So we are here with the whole family, so we are one. Because in dumplings, we have meat, we have vegetables, we have all kinds of spices, all kinds of flavor, all in one, wrapped up in the dough. So when you eat it, you have many flavors, and you have many nutritions. So to mean that we all here gather together, it means union. Reunion actually, because when you are too busy working in the field in other cities, but in the Spring Festival, people try to get home to sit together with their families So reunion is important, and an important signs of solidarity and an important time to really relax and exchange feelings, to interact with each other. So that's what I would say. And I look at every festival in China, and I found that they are the right season or right time for people to take a break. Now take the Mid-Autumn Festival in China, for instance. Mid-Autumn Festival, we sit together to make cakes, and we eat cakes and drink tea. And that's the time all harvests are yin, and people deserve a good rest. So I've discovered that people created all kinds of festivals to really give themselves a good reason to relax. Thank you for your question. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We're
Thank
so
you.
honored to have you, Dr.
Yeah.
Payne.
Thank you so much.
And please come back from 4 to 6. We'll hope you come and sing with us. And thank you to the Foreign Language Institute who made this possible.